Hello and welcome to Eagle and Pelican. My name is Mark. Today we're going to take a look at this recipe in Price Manager for product profit and margin analysis. This spreadsheet is currently available on Eagle and Pelican's Etsy store. If you want to check it out, there's a link in the description. In this tutorial, we're going to go step by step through the different parts of the spreadsheet, and that is setup page, products, parts, recipes, product run planner, pick list, and the reporting dashboard. This spreadsheet's designed to help sellers manage their products and prices to make sure they're making money. It's especially good for handcrafters and manufacturers who need to track their costs through a recipe or a bill of materials. But you can also use it for print on demand or resale activity or a combination of any of those. It's designed in particular with the United States in mind. That's where I live. All the tax logic is built for the United States and not any country that uses a VAT. If you'd like to see a sheet that's designed in that way for another country, leave a comment below and I'll try to make it happen. All right, to get started, you're going to want to go to the setup page. The first thing I want to talk about is any cell that you see that's colored, like these green ones here or the blue menu, are protected. They're not meant to be edited. If you try to click on any of these colored cells and make edits, it's going to give you a warning that says heads up. And you just want to hit cancel here. If you do, for some reason, want to make any changes, you can hit OK and it'll save your changes. If you break something editing the colored cells, I won't be able to help you fix it. You can, however, change formatting, and sometimes that also triggers the pop-up. If you want to change maybe column widths to fit your screen better or see things better, it's going to pop up. You just hit OK, and that will fix it. And you can also make any font changes or other color changes. That won't make any effect, but anything that's actually in the cell, this function here, I wouldn't recommend changing. You can use the menu over here to navigate to wherever you want to go. So you just click and it'll take you to your destination. The other tip I want to give you is if you type something in and something ends up with an error message, go ahead and hit Control Z to undo, or this button up here to undo what you did. The most common cause I've seen from that is when you're cutting and pasting data. Let's say, for example, that you want to reorder these and move Shopify down here. If you cut and paste it, you don't see it yet, but it will mess up the equations and things won't work. So you're going to go ahead and just copy and paste anything that you want to replicate and then delete the original source. The setup starts with 3 questions, and the first 2 are yes or no, and the second one, you're entering a percentage. The first question is about resale certificate. Go ahead and read the instructions over here. Decide if you want to check it yes or no. If you don't know if you have a resale certificate or not, you probably don't. And the second question is whether or not your state charges sales tax on shipping and handling. This setting helps you calculate the correct shipping costs for items that are shipped to you, usually as components or things you'll resell. There's an article linked here that's a good state-by-state guide for whether or not you want to check this box. Third, if you participate on Etsy offsite ads or anything similar, this is a percentage of orders that you think you'll sell through those ads. So it's usually a low percentage. I'm going to start with 5% here. If you want to add more or add less, you just type a percentage there from 0 to 100. And that's just going to affect the average fees that the sheet uses. Next, you want to select the sales channels in which you sell. The spreadsheet works by averaging sales across sales channels and assumes that you price things equally across channels. If you price things dramatically differently between channels, you might want to consider creating a second spreadsheet and having one for each sales channel, as the margins will be impacted by those differences. For our example today, we're going to pretend that we run a bakery that sells both at a brick and mortar location and online. So we're going to accept cash and credit card in person, and we're going to sell on Etsy. Next, estimate the percentage of sales through each sales channel. So for example, I'm going to put 10% of my sales in cash, 60% of the rest in person credit card, and then 30% on Etsy. Now it equals 100, and you won't have an error warning here. You can always come back and change and adjust this as you go. You'll just want to make sure that this always adds up to 100%. If there are any sales channels that you don't see here, go ahead and type those names into here, check the box, and select the types of fees that you pay through that channel. At any time, if you uncheck a box, go ahead and make sure you zero out the percent in sales channel. That won't automatically be removed. But for now, we're going to go ahead with this configuration. If you're not sure what any of these terms up here mean, you'll notice that most terms on the columns have this little black, or in Excel, it's red, little mark in the corner. Go ahead and hover over that and it'll show you a good description of what the spreadsheet is expecting you to enter here. Now that we've selected our sales channels, we have an average fee per sale. So that's both an average transaction fee, so per order, per item sold, and then a percentage of the gross sales. The spreadsheet assumes that you'll pay this fee on any shipping revenue as well. Next, we'll scroll down to the category and vendor names. So this is a section that we're going to enter a few things now, but you'll most likely come back and add to this as you proceed through the rest of the spreadsheet. So product categories that we sell might include t-shirts and bread. I'm going to leave the rest of these blank so you can see how this impacts the rest of the spreadsheet, and we'll come back and add more here. Same with the parts. I'm going to leave this blank for now. We'll come back to that. And vendors, this is who we purchase our either ingredients or products that we're reselling from. This would include print-on-demand vendors as well if you use those. And again, you can always come back and add more later. You also notice that there are often instructions off to the right-hand side here if you need a reminder. There's also a link here that'll take you to the chapter mark of this tutorial that covers the section you're on. All right, next, we're going to come back to dashboard later once we have some more things filled in. There's nothing to see there now. And we're going to go to the products page. The products page is where you enter all of the different products that you sell. These include items that you make from different ingredients or bill of materials, as well as things you're reselling or selling through a dropshipper or print on demand. Let's go ahead and enter some products we're going to sell at our bakery. So first thing we're going to sell is a cookie, and this is the one piece. And we're also going to have a separate product for a 6-pack. We're going to sell a pan of brownies and a single brownie. We're going to sell a loaf of bread, and we also partner with a local equipment company to sell custom rolling pins. Some of these products, like the cookies or the brownies, maybe we only sell the larger size on Etsy and the smaller size is in store. Just be aware that if sales are skewed across your channels, so the margins might be off by a little bit when it comes to your fees, and take that into consideration when you're estimating your margins. Again, if you would rather have one sheet for the in-store and one sheet for Etsy and that fits your situation, I would create a duplicate of this. Most of the data you'll be able to copy and paste back and forth, so it shouldn't take very long. If you use SKU numbers, you can enter those here. This might be a place too where you'll want to expand the column width if you have a very long number or change the font size. If you use storage system with bin or other identification numbers, that's column E. Both of these are optional. If you don't think you'd ever use them, you can always hide a column as well. Never delete a column, but hiding it is a good way to make your sheet easier to read. Next, product description. That's an optional field. This is mostly for your own memory of what the product is. Next is your product category. This is a required field. You'll see here the bread and t-shirts are our two categories. Remember, those are what we added back on this page. So now we're going to add cookies, brownies, and baking equipment. That way we have appropriate categories for everything. So we have cookies as our category here, brownies here. If you want to not do the drop-down menu, you can always copy and paste. If you try to type something in here that's not on the list, it won't show up here. So if it is, it will show up. And if you try to save something that's not on there, like you think rolling pins is a category, it won't let you do that. That violates the rule. And you have to either select something from here or go back and add your new option to the product category list. Next, we'll select a vendor. This is going to be either the company which you buy the product from. Again, that's like for resale, you're buying from a wholesaler, or for print on demand. Or if you're going to make it yourself, you use recipe. So most of our products here, we're going to use recipe for. And the rolling pin, we don't have a company that we buy it from there. We're just going to come over here and add a new one. And now you can select them there. For any vendors that aren't your own recipe, you need to fill this information in. Vendor item number is an optional number to help you identify which particular item it is. Units per item. This is how many come in the package that you buy it in. So if you buy rolling pins one at a time from your vendor, you'll enter 1. However, if you're buying a pack of something and you need to split it up, maybe a pack of 10, you would enter that there. The vendor item cost is the amount of money that you pay for that pack. So maybe in this case, we pay $125 for that pack. There are local companies, so we don't pay any shipping and sales tax here. This is the percentage of sales tax you'll pay on this product. If you had checked that you have a resale certificate, that column will be blacked out, and so you don't have to fill any of that in. And that's how we'll leave it for now. This will give you a calculated cost per unit. The colored columns here are all calculated, and you shouldn't type anything in those. Next, you'll put your estimated cost for shipping an item to your customer. So this is how much you're going to pay your shipper. We don't ship our single cookie units. The 6 cookie units cost $5 to ship. Panda brownies, let's say that costs $12. Don't ship that product. Don't ship that product. And the rolling pin costs $7. I'm making these up. You put what's closest to your cost. Make sure you also include the cost of any packaging here. And if you'd like, you can include labor of packing it into the box for shipping. Next, you'll put your list price. This is how much you're going to typically list the product for sale. Now you'll see here that things are automatically filling in terms of our margins. You can already see that at the price of $15, our gross margin is negative. Part of that is because we haven't collected any shipping. So if we're going to charge $7 for shipping, we would put that there. But if we want to offer free shipping, you'd leave that 0. And that you're selling the product at a loss there. So in this case, we would want to come back and reconsider our numbers. So let's put that price up to $30. The rest of the products that use recipes, these margins aren't going to be accurate yet, and we're going to need to come back and check these once we've added recipes. So I'm going to quickly fill in the rest of this column. If you typically offer discounts, you put the average discount here for all your items sold. So let's say you offer a 20% discount, and on average, that 20% discount is applied to 10% of your orders. You would type in the equation, and that would get you your average discount amount. You can also just type in an amount if you think you know what your discount is. For now, I'm just going to use 10% for all of these. So again, we can now review our margins and see what we think. I'm not a big fan of this margin for this rolling pins. I think I am going to charge customers $5 for shipping. That's a bit better. Last, if you ever want to discontinue a product but leave it on the sheet, just go ahead and click this button. All it does is change the formatting. It won't change any of the underlying logic. So if you ever want to bring it back, you can do that. Never delete a whole line. If you don't want to see your discontinued products like this, I would use the filter sorter that's on the top and just only show things that are not discontinued. The spreadsheet comes with a filter added to the column headers. Feel free to go ahead, just like for the discontinued, to sort or filter by any amounts here. Just know that some combinations of sorting, such as sorting this one from lowest to highest or from highest to lowest, will mess it up. So in this case, it considers these blanks to be high values because they're blank text values. So it's going to put everything with a number at the bottom. So don't freak out. If you don't see anything, go ahead and hit Control Z or the undo button, and everything will go back to the way it should be. Next, let's go to the parts page. So the parts page looks a lot like the products page, but instead of adding things we're going to sell, we're going to add the things that we make our other products with. So go back to the products page. All the items with the use recipe are going to be built from the parts list. So I've got a whole list here for my example, and I'm just going to go through and type those in. Don't forget that one of the parts or components of what you're selling is your labor or the labor of maybe someone you hire. So go ahead and add those here. That way we'll make sure we get the true cost of our items when we produce our recipes. As for the products page, these next columns, SKU, bin, and description, are optional. The next category, part category, is required. However, there are no options here yet because we said we would come back and fill this in later. You put the part categories here. So for example, I might want my part categories to be specific. Maybe I want certain types of butter. And I'm going to buy several types of butter for different recipes. That might be a category. Another category might just be food ingredients. These categories are completely optional, and you can always come back and change them later. Note, however, that if you assign a product to a category, so we do that, and then we change this, maybe we change the spelling, just ingredients, or we want to be more particular, like flour, butter, things like that. We make any changes here. This will now be an illegal value. Change it, but it'll give you this red warning, and you're going to want to go ahead and update that to the new category. Next, if you'd like, you can add a vendor. This is an optional field. Right now, we added some of these vendors back on the setup, so I'm going to go ahead and add those in. And no vendor for labor, so we'll leave that blank. Next, vendor item costs. This is the amount of money you'll pay for this particular part in its largest quantity. So for example, if you buy butter wholesale, maybe you buy it in 5-pound increments. You can add that here if you'd like. However, we're also going to add it later when we get to this units. So that's optional there to clarify, but however you buy it, you're going to put the cost here. So we'll say that it costs $20. Any shipping cost for this item to come to you is $0. We have an NA certificate resale here, and because we have this checked, if we uncheck that, it's going to let us type a sales tax into that column. This is an optional vendor item number if they have one to help you identify which item you're referencing here. Units per item. So in this case, we have 5 pounds of butter. So our measurements are in this list. So if we want to find a pound, it would be 5. So now it's going to calculate total cost for the item is obviously $20, but also the unit amount here. So that's the amount per pound. And the spreadsheet will take this information, and anytime butter is used, as long as it's used in a weight quantity, so gram, kilogram, etc., any of these weight quantities, it'll automatically convert this cost per pound into whatever the appropriate cost is. And that'll do the same thing for any volume measurements or length measurements, as well as time measurements, hour and minute. So those are the categories. And as long as you stick with parts within the same category, you can convert back and forth. You could put a pound of butter into a cup, but Excel doesn't know the weight conversion for each item in particular, so that will produce an error. All right, let's do another example here. So for sugar, let's say we buy this in 10-pound bag, and that's going to cost $18.99. And again, we're not going to have any shipping. 10 ounce. All right, next we'll add some vanilla. In this case, I'm going to assume we're buying a fancy vanilla. We're going to buy it, and it's going to ship to us. And this comes in a 16 fluid ounce bottle. And when it comes to these measurements, you just want to make sure you do the fluid measurement, because remember, you need like with like measurements. So don't choose the weight one, choose the fluid one. And it tells us how much per ounce this costs. And eggs, we'll buy fancy eggs. In this case, we're buying a dozen eggs, but the unit of measurement, we have 12 of what? We have 12 each. So use each when doing some sort of count that's not measured in weight, volume, distance, or time. Those are the 3 we use. All right, to save some time, I'm going to go ahead and just type all these in. I'm going to pause here just to say that yeast is another good example where it's often sold by weight, but if you're going to measure it out in your recipe in a volume measurement, such as teaspoons or tablespoons, you'll want to consider whether or not you want to choose the ounces fluid here, which may not be accurate. Depending on the density of the product, yeast is not very dense, so I don't think that that would add up correctly if you end up doing tablespoons, and your price would be off. So you might need to take some time to weigh out how much on average, how many grams maybe on average yeast is per teaspoon, so if you want to keep this volume, and then you would just choose the weight, and then your recipe would be in grams. here, I'm selecting each because our unit is 1 pound bags. So this is 1 pound bag. You could, because they're 1 pound, just also do pound here. If you're going to use these like fractions of these, so you want to use 8 ounces at a time, you do that. You can also do it as a bag if you're using bags each, at a time. It's up to you. Okay, as you can see, this takes a little while to enter everything, but now that we have everything here, we'll be able to use it for as many recipes as we want going forward, and it will do all the unit conversion for us. One thing to note is if you buy an item, let's say sugar from multiple vendors, but you use those items from each vendor interchangeably, so sugar for one can be in the same recipe as sugar from another, then you'll want to average out those costs here. The spreadsheet doesn't support interchangeable items like that. All right, next we're going to create 3 of our recipes. Let's do our cookies first. So as you can see, we have a 1 piece and a 6 piece. I'm going to start with this one, and then we'll see how it's easy to make our 1 piece recipe into a 6 piece recipe. We're going to make a batch of 24 cookies at a time. Next, we'll start off with our first part, which is butter. Even though this says 5 pounds, because that's the increment we buy it in, you can use it in whatever increments of weight you'd like. So in this case, we're going to use a 1/2 pound of butter, or 2 sticks. I can put that here. That's going to convert that pound into a per ounce unit. I could alternatively do 0.5 pounds, and it's the same number there. So that's an example of the conversion power of the spreadsheet. Waste, I'm going to put 0. This is how much you think you might spill, or if there's an uncertainty factor you want to price in, you'll put that here. For the next ingredients, as long as I am making cookies, I don't have to fill in these 2 fields. These are optional going forward. They're required for the first, but it sometimes is easier just to leave them blank, and it's visually a lot better. So then if down here we're going to start our brownie recipe, it'll be easier to see the breaks. That said, this spreadsheet is not sortable. These have to stay in order. And be careful if you ever need to move things around, copying and pasting around, or else this equations could get messed up. All right, I'm going to type in the rest of these ingredients, and I'll pause for any comments I want to make. So in this case, recipe says 2 cups. That's not going to work, because if we go back to our part, we purchased in 10 pound increments. So what I recommend is converting once and then kind of keeping with one way or another. So either convert your recipe into, maybe this is 1.5 pounds, it's 2 cups, with again some uncertainty factor, or conversely, we go back and make this cups, we could measure out, how many cups are in this 10 pound bag. Maybe we figure out that's 35 cups. And now this cup measurement's going to work. All right, here's an area where I put teaspoon, that's on my recipe, but it says there's missing data. And so most likely now that's going to be over here. I put weight. So for this, just to keep it going fast, let's just convert that to fluid. There we go. Here I'm putting packaging as well. So if these cookies are sold in bags with ties, I'm going to add that here. Note that there's 24 of each because we're making 24 cookies. They're individuals. We'll come back and change that when we do the 6 packs. Okay, now let's see how it's easy to convert this into our pack of 6 cookies. So we're going to do this. This makes, same recipe will make 4 packs of 6, 24 cookies. And now you can just copy and paste this down. And you'll notice that per product cost, they're all going to be different. They're all going to match what does it cost to make 6 items instead of 1. We just need to also remember to change the number of ties because there's not 24 ties per batch. There are 6. Let's add some more recipes so we can see the full functionality of some of the later options. I'm gonna pause here. I completely forgot to put how many we make at a time. We're not. Makes way more than this makes a pan of 12 brownies each. So now that'll calculate correctly. All right, now we'll add our pan, which this is a pan of brownies. Again, just converting the units, and now we'll have to add a box. This is assuming that we're going to ship it. Okay, I just took a second and added a new column here that says part unit of measurement. So now this is the category of measurement that we've been talking about from this parts list. If vanilla is a volume, weight, each, etc., it's going to give you the type of that here. And now you won't have to flip back and forth. You can see what types of measurements you are allowed or not allowed to do in these columns. All right, so before we continue, I want to go back to the product section. And now that we have our full cost of goods sold entered, let's check out, let's check out those profits there. So as you can see, margins for some of these, not too good. Our initial pricing was not very accurate. So at this point, we have a couple choices. We can try to find ways to cut our costs or increase our prices. So let's start at the top. Profit margin is something that is very individualized to different business models and different circumstances, but I like to see at least 30% at this stage. So for the individual cookie, let's try going up to 375. There we go. That's better. Our loaf of bread, let's try bringing that up to 7. That's a very expensive loaf of bread. So in this case, maybe I need to go back to my parts, or actually let's go to our recipe section. Let's see where our heavy costs are. So flour is definitely the most expensive part. I'm going to go find a different loaf of bread. So I'm going to go back to my bread flour. I'm going to maybe find Partner Inc. All right, let's maybe think if I can buy a 50-pound bag. Maybe that's bulk. That's only $35. Let's say that's what they're selling for. And that cut my cost significantly down. That's much better there. And over on our products page, you can see we can drag drop that price. Let's bring it down to 6. So nice healthy margin there. My 6-piece of cookie, we increased the price of cookies, the single cookie, so we'll probably need to increase this accordingly. So for 6, if we bought them individually, it's going to cost $22.50. So let's just make it 20. So lower margin here you can see, but the gross profit is much higher. So that's another column you want to check out, is just the gross profit total, not just the percentage. As the price goes up, you can get away with lower margins. Notice also that it's the average sale price this is using. Another way we can lower our price is to eliminate our discount. And that also boosts it up. So let's not discount our bread at all. Rolling pin, still looking good. That wasn't a recipe item, so I didn't change. And our pan of brownies, we're going to let's charge the full $12 for shipping. And let's drop the discount. And let's increase the price to $30. No, it's still not good, $35. We'll take it for now. So anyways, you can get the idea. You can play around with the margins, make sure everything looks good. Another way to understand what your costs are is to go to the dashboard. So now that we have some stuff to put here to pull, we can see that for every product that we have, we can pull up our report. And this is designed to compare 3 different products at a given time. So let's look at these 3. And then this is going to give us a cost breakdown by percentage. So you can see that for the brownie, labor is by far the biggest chunk of the costs, followed by our fees that we pay. Remember, this is percentage of cost, not percentage of price. The fees that we're paying is 31 cents. And so that's less than 10% of the price, but it's a much higher percentage of the cost of goods sold. And this is a case where individual circumstances, maybe we have a minimum credit card fee, maybe we don't sell this item on Etsy and so fees are lower there. we can kind of take those kind of things into account and think, yeah, that's probably going to be a bit lower in real life. Loaf of bread next, you can see bread flour is still a huge percentage of our costs, but it's gone down a bit. Rolling pin is much simpler. So for items that don't use recipes, this is only going to ever give us the cost of that unit, any incoming shipping costs, and average fees. So if I want to reduce my costs here, maybe I can see, do we sell enough rolling pins to justify ordering more at a time and save on our shipping? And then the other part of the dashboard is down here. We get a summary of our profitability by category. So this is going to add up all the different products we sell in each of our categories. It gives us an average sale price, average cost, average profit, and average margin. So we didn't end up adding a t-shirt, which is why that's blank. This is just a list of all of the categories that we have here, but there are no t-shirt products. So that's not going to provide any data. Okay, the last feature of this recipe and price manager is our production run planner and pick list. So let's go to the production run. So this is a tool that is designed to help manage more medium and large scale operations. If you're only doing an item or two at a time, this might be a little overkill, but let's say that we're planning a big day and I'm going to have that date be, and the first thing I'm going to make is a bunch of digital cookies. I'm going to do 2 production runs. It'll give me 48 total cookies. Let's copy that down. Next, I'm going to do individual brownies. I'm going to do 1 run of those. I'm going to do 3 pans because I have a lot of Etsy orders. I sold a lot of brownies on Etsy, let's say. Let's see, a loaf of bread. I want to do 12 of those for the next morning's sale. Let's just go with those items. So those are my 4 items. And what this does is the first thing you can do is if you highlight this section here and you hit Control P and selection here, it's going to be a nice printable format. And you'll notice that it prints the notes on the second page. So you're just going to want to print the first page probably. So at this stage, just do first page. The other thing it does is it creates a pick list. So if we go to this sheet here and we want to make sure we have the right production dates, you can queue up a lot of different production on different days. And this is going to take all of the ingredients that we have for those other products and say, okay, how much do we need in total? So, butter was used for cookies and brownies. Flour is an ingredient for all 3 of these. And this now will give you, how much butter do I need for everything combined? How much flour here, etc. So this is something that, you can use this to check your inventory, make sure you have enough. If you want to plan ahead of time, this is really good. So maybe you want to plan even a week's worth of production at a time, enter everything in, and that will help provide a good shopping list. Like the other sheet, you can highlight the part you want to print, choose selected cells, and then this will give you a nice print list with checklists, places for notes. If you had entered bin numbers back on the parts page, number 2, etc., those will now show up here so you know where to go get these items in your inventory warehouse, wherever you're keeping it. All right, and that's the tutorial. If you're interested in getting a copy of this template, it's available again at my Etsy store, link in the description. I'm currently working on a much more comprehensive spreadsheet that will add full inventory management functionality and a bunch of other cool features to this product. So if that sounds interesting, be sure to follow so you'll know when it launches. If you have any other questions about this template, and if there's a spreadsheet template you'd like to see me make, leave a comment or send a message so I can know to prioritize it. Thanks so much.